Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another post-race analysis video on the channel. We are covering the 2021 Daytona Road Course points-paying race that happened here today, race 2 of 36 on the season. It was a pretty good race for the most part from start to finish. You had a lot of great racing throughout. It got a little ugly at the finish with the caution after caution. You know the deal, cautions breed cautions. We'll get into that. We'll go in chronological order along the way. Also, for those of you that didn't see, I was live streaming my realistic broadcast of the actual race as it was being played out. So that was a lot of fun. You guys in the chat were having a lot of fun with that here today. I think we're going to keep that going on a weekly basis. If not for the Cup race, at least for a truck or Xfinity race throughout the course of the weekend. I'll try to make room to at least get one of those in. But thanks for everybody tuning in here today. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We do those full race live streams with a realistic broadcast with NASCAR video games. And now we're doing it with the real races at least once a week. So thanks everybody for coming out for that. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. Now let's break down this race in chronological order. We're going to start things off with stage number 1. It was a chaotic opening lap. Michael Mcdowell, who started second outside of Chase Elliott, who started on the pole. Mcdowell goes wide into turn 1, comes back onto the racetrack. They're 3, almost 4 wide, going through the S's in the first couple corners, and Kyle Busch ends up in the grass. He tears the right front off of his car. A little damage to the left front as well. I mean, the splitter just dug right into the grass. And then they ended up having a caution about the time they got back to the start-finish line because Michael Mcdowell had blown a tire, locking it up after already running wide into the first corner, and his tire tore to shreds, leaving debris on the racetrack. They ended up getting another caution for a tire incident later in the stage as well. Chase Elliott pretty much dominated stage 1. He actually led every single lap of stage 1, even through the pit stops that happened under caution towards the end of stage 1. So Chase Elliott dominated there, getting his first playoff point of the season. After Chase Elliott was able to win there, also in stage 1, we had a lot of chargers coming from the back. Guys like AJ Allmendinger, even Ryan Blaney in stage 1 at least was cutting his way through the field. Martin Truex Jr., who started 19th, was already up to 6th by the end of the first stage at one point in the race. The stage 1 finishers went like this. Of course, as mentioned, Chase Elliott ended up getting the stage win. Joey Logano finished second. Denny Hamlin scores a lot of stage points. Once again, Hamlin is somebody to keep an eye out here throughout the course of the season. As mentioned, Truex came to the front. Austin Dillon held his own really well, at least in the first stage of the race today, scoring at least a few stage points. I was not expecting that to happen, though he fell from grace very quickly, but we'll get to that in a second. Kurt Busch, he was in the top 5 early on, definitely impressed as well. Keselowski ended up having a lot of problems today, but scored a lot of stage points, including right here in stage 1. Stage number 2. In stage number 2, Chase Elliott lost his track position. We had a caution midway through stage number 2. Actually, when we had a restart, we only ended up having 5 laps to go. Chase Elliott and his crew took a very, very long time. He had that first pit box after starting on the pole today due to the random draw earlier in the week, so he got his choice. That team got their first choice, and it was pit box number 1 that they took, but that did not help him on this pit stop like it did in stage 1. He lost 5 spots, had to restart back at 6. We had a couple guys stay out of the pits as well with varying strategy, so that ended up restarting Chase Elliott in the back half of the top 10, and in 5 laps he was not able to get to the lead. Though that tire strategy that was played out, it was really bad. We have seen in all 3 series really all weekend that if you go more than 2 or 3 laps around this racetrack with how big it is, it's a 3.5 mile plus road course, that it is so hard to hang on. It takes almost 2 minutes to get a lap in here, if not more, depending on, rain or shine, whatever. But anyway, it takes a long time to get around this racetrack. So the tires definitely are very important. You get more than 2 laps, and you have to come and take tires, unless you're banking on the fact that a lot of other guys are staying out too. And because every single time we saw this kind of a strategy tend to work out, it just never ended up working out to perfection. We saw that again towards the end of the race. But yep, right there, bad tire strategies. Guys like AJ Allmendinger, I'm very surprised actually AJ Allmendinger restarted in the lead in that stage, or with 5 laps to go in the stage, because he didn't pit. AJ isn't even running for points. What was the call for him to stay out and not come to pit road with the rest of the leaders? It just didn't make any sense. He already had the track position too, because when that caution came out, he had driven his way up to 4th place in the first 25, 30 laps of the race. It was insane. AJ looked like he had one of the 3 best cars early on. I think AJ Allmendinger, Chase Elliott, Mark Truex Jr. looked like the three guys to beat at least in the first two stages of the race. And Denny Hamlin has 3 playoff points in the first 2 races of the year without a win so far this year. So very impressive. And again, he was in the top 10. He scored 18 stage points today, more than anybody else, and had a good race finish to go along the way. And we'll get right into that after we go through the rest of the finishing order for Stage 2. So as mentioned, Denny Hamlin ends up getting the Stage 2 victory. Second place, it was Kurt Busch, again in the top 5 for 2 stages. So Kurt Busch very close second as far as stage points go. Joey Logano third. He had a quiet but good day through the beginning portion. Had a chance to win it late, as we'll get to in a little bit. Christopher Bell, this is where he really started to impress. Pretty much came from nowhere. Bell did not get a single stage point in Stage 1, but he was charging towards the front of the field. Actually was one of those guys that also stayed out of the pits, so for him to finish 4th after staying out of the pits there, he got the track position, and boy, he never let go of that for the rest of the race. Martin Truex Jr., as mentioned, had a fast car. Elliot had a fast car, but had a bad pit stop. They finished 5th and 6th in the stage. This is where William Byron started to take forward as well. He started back around where Truex did in the middle of the field at the start of the day. He was able to score a couple stage points there and was really in the back half of the top 10 for most of the day, exiting that point. Cole Custer had a quiet but good day up to that point. A.J. Allmendinger fell from 1st to 9th on that final 5 laps of the stage. And Kyle Busch, who had that incident back on lap 1, was able to actually get to the top 10 before the end of Stage 2 and before the halfway mark in today's race. So that was very impressive. He was drawing a very, very big comeback. Now into the final stage of the race. We're going to skim forward. We had some green flag pit stops going on about halfway through the stage. Some guys were splitting in half. Some guys were short pitting as soon as that window was open. And 2 of the last guys to pit were the 2 guys that were running 1-2, Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell. Elliot's pit crew did not let him down, at least on the green flag stop like they did under the caution back in Stage 2 prior to that, as Chase Elliott came out 2 seconds ahead of Christopher Bell when it was about a second to just less than a second lead for Elliott before the pit stops happened. Took a lot of pressure off of him, and everything was good to go until the rain came. The rain came with about 14 laps to go, bringing out a caution. A lot of questionable decisions on whether or not they brought the rain. Honestly, in the live instance of it happening with doing my realistic broadcast along the way, I thought that they made the right call. Other people are thinking, otherwise, and NASCAR not making the right call because the entire track was not wet or damp enough for them to take tires. So definitely it's persuading me in that direction that NASCAR made the wrong call here. Did they make it intentionally or not? I'm not good. That's not going to be for me to decide. It can be obvious that they did. We have seen instances where they've made bad calls that seem very fishy in the past, but we've also seen them make bad calls where they, completely come right out and said, yeah, we made the bad call there. So it's really up in the air at this point. With Chase Elliott leading the race, too, of all things, it really kind of backtracks it maybe a little bit because Elliott had a shot at history. He had a chance, a real good chance of winning 5 straight road course races stretching over the last few seasons. And I thought he had the best car today. So very, very stunning that ended up happening. Chaotic restart after chaotic restart after that point. We had some split tire strategies again because nobody came down to take any sort of rain tires. Everybody did come down to take fresh tires except for the top 13. Yes, 13 drivers stayed out of the pits. Now, some of those were Rick Ware racing cars, and I think Corey LaJoie, too, who was running up towards the front very, very early until that first caution at least, and then he started losing track position, fell outside the top 10. So there were some slower cars in the top 10, and I'm sure that led into what happened on the next restart. It was a little bit damp with the slick tires in the infield, at least for that first restart, maybe even the first 2 restarts after that rain caution. I'm not going to lie, that probably led into why Martin Truex Jr. ended up shooting the gap too much. Truex was hard charging on that restart following the rain, and he ended up driving it in too hard into turn 1 like we have seen guys do all weekend. But it wasn't from the front row or the front couple rows. It was middle of the pack. Truex ends up almost taking out his teammate, Eric Jones, along the way, but Truex goes around, pretty much ending his shot of trying to get a win, lost all the track position. Caution ended up coming out later. I guess there was a piece of debris that was flying everywhere. It was really tough to see if there was debris. That was, I thought, just as fishy, if not fishier, than what the rain caution was, because at least you saw it was raining, but I did not see anything for debris that could have caused a caution there. We did see some guys spin, but they pretty much got back going in the right direction again. Yeah, it was really weird too. Again, the officiating towards the later going of this race was definitely very strange, to say the least. But we get into the later restarts again, and it ends up Joey Logano was able to hold on to the lead every single restart until the very final one. We actually went green for the final time with 8 laps to go. And by the time Christopher Bell got around Kurt Busch, people were starting to wonder if it was going to be too late for Bell to make the run. He was about 3 seconds off the lead from Logano with about 4 to 5 laps to go by the time he finally put the bumper to Kurt Busch and got around him. And you know what? It was a good thing he got around him when he did, because it was a heck of a battle with about 2 laps to go. Pretty much the entirety of that second to last lap of the race. It came all the way down to oval turns 3 and 4. Logano's throwing a block low. He's throwing a block high. I thought Bell was just going to turn him there after a little bit, but he did not. He went around him cleanly, outbreaking him into the front stretch chicane where they went side by side and made no contact. I'm very surprised that ended up being that case. I was waiting for Hamlin in third to end up with the win by the end of the day, because those two were going to take each other out, much like Blaney and Elliot did in the clash, but that did not happen there. Bell was able to get away, coming to the white flag, leading the final 2 laps of the race. He did lead laps earlier in the race as well, but not many. That was when he was battling Elliot there early in stage 3. But Christopher Bell gets his first career win, and for the first 2 weeks of the 2021 season, we have 2 drivers getting their first career wins. Michael Mcdowell on the Daytona 500, and on the Daytona road course, Erik Jones gets it done. So great run for Erik Jones. Quick little rundown of the top 10 finishers and the notable finishers in today's race. Christopher Bell, of course, getting the win. Logano ended up finishing second. He was the only one that benefited really with taking those old tires on that last restart. Everybody else pretty much fell outside the top 10 that ended up taking or deciding to elect to take with the old tires. I think Kurt Busch being a little bit slower there towards the end. He had a slide through the grass earlier in the stage while leading. That might have caused maybe a little bit of damage. It didn't look like he had much damage, but I'm sure it had to have affected the car somewhat, and he was only able to really get back up through the field as much as he did because of the accident after accident we saw after the rain caution. Denny Hamlin finished third. Again, strong day, scored the most stage points. I believe he is the points leader now, exiting this race as well. And again, 3 playoff points on the year without a win. Just wait till we get to those 550 tracks. I think Hamlin and Harvick are going to be the 2 guys to beat, much like they were last year when we get to those 550 tracks, and that starts next week at Homestead. Kurt Busch, as mentioned, 4th. Brad Keselowski had a rough day. He was missing chicanes left and right. He was overcooking the corner in turn 3 a lot throughout the course of the day. That man still somehow found his way to finish 5th. I guess he knew what he was doing after all. I was not expecting that, but it was definitely an ugly 5th place finish for Brad Keselowski, to say the least. But bad Brad showing why he is a former champion in the sport. Kevin Harvick had a quiet but good day, finishes 6th. AJ Allmendinger did come back after actually at the end of stage 2. Obviously, he ended up losing a little bit of that track position he had. Then he decided to come down to pit road with pretty much a large majority of the field had a pit road penalty. He was at the back of the field at the start of the final stage and was able to get to 7th. Michael Mcdowell, great comeback performance for him as well. He overcooked it into turn 2. Now, he took the entire race instead of just the final stage to go from the back to the front, but he found his way up there, and he ended up with a top 10. So back-to-back top 10s to start the season for Michael Mcdowell, and again, a win already. He might point his way into the round of 16 and might not even have to fall back on that win, but he's got the extra 5 playoff points for when the time comes as well. Ryan Preece as well, getting back-to-back top 10s to start the season with a 9th place finish today after finishing, I believe, if I remember correctly, 6th in the Daytona 500, 6th or 7th. You might have to fact check me on that. He was 6th or 7th. Great run for Ryan Preece today. And Alex Bowman, after starting at the back of the field, another one of those days where he pretty much was a non-factor all day, but all the chaos that ensued late, Bowman was able to miss everything. He capitalized on the everything that was pretty much handed to him at that point, and Alex Bowman rounds out the top 10 in today's race. Now we're going to go through some of the drivers I had in the pre-race and where they might have finished and how they ran throughout the course of the day outside of the top 10 and the drivers I mentioned. Ryan Blaney very well disappointed me today, and not just because I'm a Blaney fan. He ran really well. He had one of the best cars in the Busch Clash on Tuesday night, not this week, but the week before when Speed Week started. And he almost won the race and probably was going to win the race if he didn't end up having the contact with Elliot, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. He ended up very, very close to victory lane that day. And he comes out today, and he runs 15th to 20th the entire race, ended up with a 15th place finish. He was just a non-factor. He ended up going to the back at the beginning of stage 3 for whatever reason. Fox did not pick up on what ended up going down on my realistic broadcast. I was like, Blaney's back in 31st right now, randomly under green flag conditions, and nobody said a thing. And I don't think he short pitted intentionally because the fuel window wasn't even open yet to the end of the race. So maybe he flat spotted a tire of some sort. He was a non-factor all day, so that's probably why they didn't cover it. But still, I left to be questioned. I didn't have the radio on either, which I might start doing that going forward. But anyway, so yeah, Blaney was a non-factor. He was one of my sleeper picks. He was really good on road courses, and he was really good on the Clash on this very road course and almost won. So very disappointing day for him. Bubba Wallace was one of the don't-haves. He had a bad day. He was missing a couple chicanes. He was much like Brad Keselowski. The difference is Keselowski ended up finishing 5th, and Bubba Wallace finished outside the top 20 for the 9th time in his 9 road course races in the Cup Series. So that trend continues. Austin Dillon still fails to score a top 15 finish in the end. Yes, he scored stage points in stage 1, but that was it. He finished outside the top 30 today. He had problems late on those late restarts as well. He looked like he probably could have finished at least in the top 15, but that just was not the case. And Almirola was in the top 10 there for a little bit at the beginning of stage 3, so he went wide in the grass, and he pretty much never got back inside the top 15. So those are the 3 guys I said not to put in your fantasy team, and they all proved to those expectations by not running well at all. And then for Blaney, he was a sleeper pick that did not run well. Jones had problems early on with the flat tire, and he slowly came back from him, but never really got in the top 10. I did not have him on my fantasy team because I wasn't completely sold on him, but I said, look out for him. He might be a sleeper. Almirola was one of the sleeper picks as well, and he ended up getting a top 10 at the end of the day, so that worked out. And the other sleeper was William Byron, who got pretty much a good run up until whatever happened on the last lap. He had a lot of sparks coming out from under his car, so something must have broke, or he had a flat tire or something, but he was getting lapped as the leaders were coming to the checker flag. So William Byron did not get a good finish, despite the fact he was in the top 10 pretty much the entirety of stage 2 and the entirety of the final stage until those late race restarts. So that those cautions definitely hurt William Byron's chances of even getting a good finish, because he definitely deserved the top 10 today. And the must-haves, Denny Hamlin was one of the must-haves. He ended up finishing 3rd, good for him. And then Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott had fast cars. They had, honestly, 2 of the 3 best cars, in my opinion, in the race today. Truex was in 3rd for pretty much the whole thing. Once he got through the traffic at the start of the race, he scored a lot of stage points in both stages, and unfortunately, he overcooked it in turn 1 on the restart late. So you definitely have to fault him for that, but he had a good day up until then. Just a tough week at the Daytona road course and at Daytona for Martin Truex Jr. over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. And then also Chase Elliott was the obvious pick. He was my pick to win the race, and looked like he was going to until the rain came and NASCAR decided to throw a caution for the rain. Needless to say, costed him a chance at winning. He still had a chance to win after that, but same with Truex, where he just had instances on the restart that though it was more out of Elliott's control than what it was Truex's case. Actually, Elliott ended up spinning before getting back onto the oval, and some people in my chat were saying that Denny Hamlin had spun him, and man, why did Hamlin spin him? Hamlin did not spin him intentionally. They were stacked up. Kurt Busch had checked up off the exit of the corner. It looked like Chase was going to try to undercut him when Kurt checked up and try like a crossover move, and it just didn't work. When Kurt checked up, Elliott ran into the back of him, and then Hamlin ran in the back of Elliott, and actually the 4th car, who was behind Hamlin, even had hit Hamlin, and that was, I believe, Chase Briscoe at that time. So they all 4 of them basically hit each other simultaneously, and Elliott was the odd man out and was the one that got spun out because of it and finished 21st, unfortunately. So outside of those 2 drivers that were the must-haves that I said to have in your lineup, and they still had decent day. Well, they had a lot of stage points. Elliott won a stage, and unfortunately, they just didn't get the finish they deserved. But outside of that, all my predictions pretty much went according to plan. And Blaney, because he just, for whatever reason, wasn't fast today, and I don't know why. He didn't have, it was role reversal, where Blaney was the only fast Penske car in the Clash, and then Logano and Keselowski were not competitive in the Clash, and then today, for the points race, Blaney was not competitive, but his teammates, Logano and Keselowski, were in the top 10 most of the day. So I don't know what the deal was there with Penske, but man, Logano so close to winning the first 2 races of the year. He gets past coming to the white flag today, and he gets involved in a fiery crash while leading on the last lap of the 500 the week before. So there's an argument that Logano could have won the first 2 races. But that is going to wrap up the post-race analysis video. Also, if you haven't already, join the KRC League, which is our fantasy league on YouTube, the fantasy league on the NASCAR app or website. Go to Fantasy, sign up with your email, search KRC League, KRC in all caps, and then League, and select join, because you have your chance to be featured on next week's predictions video, or any week's predictions video if you win that said week. And at the end of the year, if you win the league championship, you will get 2 tickets to any NASCAR event of your choosing in 2022 outside of the Daytona 500. But this week's winner was Super B-Man 1. Nobody in the chat knew who he was, nor was he in the chat, it seemed like, at the end. So Super B-Man 1, if you want to step to the plate and claim that you are Super B-Man 1 in the comment section of this video or any upcoming streams over the next couple days, then please do so we can get together and get the interview done for the predictions video as soon as we can before next week starts up at Homestead Miami Speedway, the third and final race of the Florida triple header for the NASCAR Cup Series. And really, all 3 series are racing there again next week as well. So it should be a lot of fun, and we'll do another live realistic broadcast during at least one of the races next weekend as well. Thanks for everybody watching here tonight. Like, share, and subscribe again for more daily NASCAR content. What were your thoughts and opinions on the race? How'd your fantasy team do? Mine ended up getting shot in the foot there in the last couple laps of the race because of all those cautions, and pretty much I had everybody outside of... yeah, even Kyle Busch came back. So everybody was inside the top 10 there at one point on my team until everything just spiraled out of control. I ended up only getting 2 of my guys in the top 10 at the end of the day because of it. But that's NASCAR. So, yeah, again, thanks for everybody watching. Have a good rest of your night, and I'll see you tomorrow.